Hey, good morning and happy hump day, everybody. So I don't want to get too much into this, but I wish my low was the fact that there was no America's Got Talent, because you know what, that would be, because that really would be the least of my problems. Yeah, there actually was a new episode of America's Got Talent last night because I think because of 4th of July week, even though 4th of July is later this week, they didn't want to interfere with the scheduling or whatever, which is odd. I mean, if 4th of July was actually yesterday, I could see why they wouldn't do that. But 4th of July is not going to be until Friday, which makes zero sense whatsoever. Anyway, so my low is the fact that I was given some pretty dumb news. I don't want to get into what it is. Let's just say, I'm in for a rough couple of days in terms of what my plans were going to be. For once, I'm actually let's just say I hope the weekend goes by fast. I'll say that much. That's how much I'm not looking forward to it. Sad part is I was really looking forward to Friday too. Anyway. What was my high? My high is I got some important work done. That was something important I had to do. And my act of kindness was I held the door for some people, did that, and I also reached something for somebody who couldn't reach to the store. That's the beautiful thing about being 6'4". You can actually reach things that some people can't. So, no new America's Got Talent. I was shocked. Really, I was. I mean, again, 4th of July is not getting me until Friday. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't point out that today is the 9-year wedding anniversary of my brother and his wife. A day that, for a really long time, I absolutely did not care for. In the slightest. I mean, here's the thing. I've said this before, I'll say it again. From 2013 to 2018, I went to 4 weddings. And each one got progressively worse. And here's the thing, I was so miserable considering the circumstances of my brother's wedding that up until the wedding I went to in 2018, I really was convinced that was the worst wedding I've ever been to ever. And that's nothing to say I was against my brother getting married. No, in fact, I'll say it right now. The union between my brother and his wife on the wedding day was, and still is, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my entire life. It was just the circumstances with a few certain people in regards to the wedding that I wasn't a fan of. And for a long time, and I do mean a really long time, I was dumb and, I really let that get to me. I was also in that place where, given my past, I really didn't believe that, I'd ever, find the right girl and, get married. That's not to say I was jealous of my brother, not in the slightest. I mean, listen, I'll be honest. it would have to be, my life would really have to be terrible if I was be jealous of my brother. With that said, I just remember feeling just completely miserable all that time ago. So, it kind of begs the question, I'm not so miserable about that anymore. Why is that? Well, again, for starters, I can always look back to the fact that, again, it was one of the most beautiful unions I'd ever seen in my entire life. And, oh, sorry, I got a message. And it still holds up as one of the most beautiful unions I'd ever seen in all my life. I guess time has a way of changing. I mean, listen, I'm pretty sure you've all heard this before, but every 4 or 5 years, at some point, we undergo change. Like, I can genuinely tell you, I'm a much different person now than I was 9 years ago. In many ways. I mean, I went from being, I guess, bitter, sad, believing I'd never know what love or happiness are, to now, I can, full stop, I can actually go to a wedding and say, you know what, they may not be me up there, but someday it will be. Whereas before, especially on the day of my brother's wedding, I'm like, that's never going to be me up there. So, again, emotionally wise, I'm definitely a more genuinely happy person. It also helps that I just happen to know the best jewelers and some of the best bridal people in this area. You guys know who you are. And also, I said up till 2018, the wedding I went to in 2018 was bad. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad, I legit almost gave up on love forever. Like, forever, ever. I mean, granted, at that point, that was my 4th family wedding in a row. Where, again, things got progressively worse. I mean, if you want to know a rundown, 2013, that wedding wasn't bad so much as it was annoyingly inconvenient. For reference, at that point, I was 23 years old. And I was sharing a room with my mom and dad. I mean, listen, there was no way in hell I was ever going to get lucky that night. But let's say for the sake of argument that I was. Hey, let's go back to my place. Oh, by the way, my mom and dad are with me. I mean, come on. That's not cool at all. With the next wedding in 2014, that was my cousin's wedding. Nothing about that wedding was particularly bad, but there was because obviously, at the reception, there's a big party and there's seating arrangements. There was a table dedicated entirely to all of my cousins. And I was not allowed to sit at that table. Yeah, way to make a guy feel left out. So I once again had to sit at a table with my mom and dad. Yeah, so not cool. The next one after that was my brother's. I just said that. And then 2018. Oh my God, I'm not going to say who it is, but it involves one of my all-time greatest pet peeves, which is I personally have always found it kind of creepy and gross when there's I'll say it, he's older, she's younger. And by he's older, she's younger, I mean he's old enough to be her dad. That alone is already creepy to me. Now, that's not to say I haven't met couples where it hasn't worked. I have. for me, the reason why those instances work is because I think deep down, the guy knows how creepy it is. So the one thing they can do is, not draw any attention to themselves. Or if for whatever reason they can't do that, at least try and be like the nicest, most wholesome human beings you ever meet. Which, that has happened. So, that works. What was wrong with this wedding is, I know for a fact, the guy in question is, I'll just say it, a loudmouth, obnoxious asshole. There are so many people who don't like this guy, like, at all, like, really at all, that the list is incredibly long. And that's not even including the people who straight up want to kick his ass. Oh, God. That wedding was so bad. Oh, my God, it was so bad. I'll tell you what, though. Around 2019, I told my brother that his wedding was the worst I ever went to. I actually owe him an apology. It's not. It's not the worst one I've ever been to. The one in 2018 I went to, that was worse. Oh, like seriously, that wedding in 2018 made my brother's wedding look like a trip to Disney World. Like, actually, no, Disney World's still not the greatest. A trip to Cedar Point. Cedar Point, yeah, Cedar Point. Cedar Point's a great place. A trip to Cedar Point. That's how bad the wedding in 2018 was. That wedding was so bad, I legit almost gave up on love forever. Really and truly, I did. So, what made me change my mind? Like, what made me believe in love again? Like, what actually, helped set a foot forward? Well, it goes back to a topic I used to talk about, which is, for many years, there was one girl I really, really liked. And for whatever reason, be it the fact that my family had to go to church in Corning, and pretty much a lot of my time was spent there, my family was pretty secluded, so we never really went out and did much, I could never see this girl. It actually wasn't until I started living here in Elmira that I did start seeing this girl again. And, we got to catch up. It was great. In fact, every Friday night, I would always go to where she worked. Partly get dinner, but also just to see her. And things were going great. Up until the pandemic started. And before I even moved here to Elmira, I was still living with my parents. And back in February of 2019, my brother and I got into a huge argument. It was actually the day I told him that his wedding was terrible. And little did we all know, except for my brother and his wife, that was pretty much when they were pregnant with my twin nephews. Quite literally throughout my sister-in-law's entire first pregnancy, my brother and I never spoke. I mean, don't get me wrong, I went to the baby shower, I went to the gender reveal, I was there for all those important family events. But my brother and I hardly ever spoke. Up until in fact, it wasn't until a week before my twin nephews were born, that's when we started speaking again. It really was, actually, no, I really think it was about a week. I think it was a Thursday when it happened. And my nephews would be born one Thursday later. Crazy, right? Knowing that my brother had just become a father, and he would have legitimately never let me see my nephews again if I actually went out during COVID. Because remember, when COVID hit, we all had to stay indoors. Quarantined. We couldn't go out and do anything. If I actually went out and risked seeing this girl again, whether or not my brother, whether or not I got sick with COVID or not. Like, seriously, I could have gone out, not gotten sick with COVID. But if my brother found out I went out, I never see my nephews again. I can't quite confirm that's what my brother was thinking, but I mean, come on, given what had happened before my nephews were born, yeah, you come to that conclusion too. So, with me not being able to see this girl, I mean, I want to say this. I was good. You know, I stayed indoors. I never got COVID. In fact, my brother has actually had COVID more than I have. Granted, he's had COVID twice, I've had it once. But still, like, I've been good. And you know what? After 3 months when COVID started, so June of 2020, I was finally able to see my nephews again, and it was wonderful. All I just needed to wait for was permission to go out and, you know, go out again. I mean, listen, even if I'm allowed to see my nephews again, I'm still not off the hook in terms of COVID. Nobody was. So, it was around 2021, I probably received the greatest news I'd ever been given in my entire life. Like the kind of news where it really just feels as if a weight's lifted off of your shoulders. And at that point, I was pretty much ready to find this girl again and tell her how I felt. Especially given how before the pandemic started, my grandfather died and this girl, you know, comforted me. During the pandemic, her grandfather died and I was finally going to be able to tell her how I feel, comfort her, be there for her. She finds another guy. She gets engaged and then she got married. Well, she wouldn't get married until 2023. But I swear, when she got engaged in 2022, that was a year of just letting heartbreak dictate how I was feeling. Don't worry, there's going to be a happy ending here. September of that year, I go to my first wedding in several years, since that really horrible wedding back in 2018. And maybe because I was just desperate to feel happy again, or maybe it was because I actually saw people I hadn't seen in years. But that was the greatest wedding I'd ever been to, ever. Like, that wedding was so good, I cried during the ceremony. I never cried at weddings before. Like, ever. I had never cried during a wedding before. Which would lead to my saying, if I'm at a wedding and I cry during the ceremony, the wedding is good. That's my gold standard. In fact, not only did it happen once, it happened twice that year. I would later go to my cousin's wedding in November. I cried during that ceremony too. And the wedding was awesome. Which actually proved I could actually go to a family wedding. And because the first wedding I went to that year was a friend of the family. This was an actual family wedding. And I cried during that ceremony. It was awesome. I mean, granted, I'm going to a wedding in September, which I do need to find a day for. And maybe that streak keeps up, I don't know. But without those two weddings in 2022, I really don't think for starters, 2022 is all but lost. More importantly, however, I really don't think I would be where I'm at emotionally without those two weddings. So my point is, if you go through years and years and years of feeling, you know, like you're never going to find the right person, or you just never think that's going to be you standing up on that altar, don't give up on that. Because I can tell you for a fact, I was on the verge of doing so. But I still stayed. You know, I still, even a tiny amount of me still believed. And while it hasn't happened yet, I can genuinely tell you I've experienced things that have filled me with so much joy. I'll be honest, I can actually get a little material, I think, about it, for being honest. Was it all perfect? No. But I've come so incredibly far that I can look back on that and be like, wow, look where I am now. And it makes me so very blessed to say I'm just a lucky guy. But that's just me. So, to my brother and his wife, provided you ever see this, happy anniversary. This video is dedicated to you guys. Happy 9 years. Oh, it's been 9 years. Holy cow. I still firmly believe that your union was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my entire life. And as time goes on, it just proves to be more and more true. Sorry. I'm getting kind of emotional here. Holy cow. I should probably wrap this up before the waterworks start showing up. So I hope you like this video. Like, subscribe, YouTube channel, on social media. As always, I'm very humble. This video for all of you guys who watch the show. We have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Remember, if you guys want to talk to us, we get a letter in back. Take care and make good choices. 6 and 7 all day, baby.